This session we have a eminent personality from research wing, Dr. Ram Mohan S. He had his PhD in control valves from Indian Institute of Technology in 2011 and postgraduate in MTech from Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and graduated his mechanical engineering from NSS College of Engineering, Palakkad. He started his career as an engineer in Fluid Control Research Institute, FCRI, Palakkad in 1988 as a junior engineer and has been functioning in different capacities in various departments of FCRI since then. He underwent 3 months UNIDO fellowship training in flow measurement at National Research Laboratory for Metrology at Tokyo, Japan, and successfully completed Six Sigma Black Belt certification program from Indian Statistical Institute, Coimbatore. Presently, he is working as Deputy Director and Head of Projects, Quality and Physical Standards Laboratory, functioning as Quality Manager, Management Representative for the organization, leading a team of engineers for design, assembly, and performing specialized testing of various types of flow elements used in different fields of industry as per specific standards protocols. Presently, leading 4 research projects funded by BARC, IGCAR, Indian Navy in the field of performance evaluation of critical components in nuclear field. He was a member of FCRI design, erection, and commissioning team and played different roles in water laboratory establishment. The experience so gained was used to build additional supporting laboratories and expanding the scope of FCRI technical activities. After commissioning of FCRI facilities, led quality and reliability team, and the testing and calibration laboratories were accredited by NCTCF and then NABL. He has successfully completed various projects in the field of experimental hydraulic simulation of PFBR reactor components of DAE, special valves for NPCIL and BARC BARC, special flow control devices for different sectors of industry. Considerable expertise and know-how has been generated in-house FCRI inflow product testing and calibration, and the author has participated, contributed, and gained valuable exposure in the flow measurement field. He had published many research papers at various conferences and journals. Technical expert for NABL in fluid flow and metrology field, member of 2 sectional committees of Bureau of Indian Standards, and advisory board member of 3 technical institutions in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Sir, please welcome, sir. Please take over the session. Thank you.
So, good afternoon. Hello.
Yes, welcome. Audible.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Audible.
Okay. So can I start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, all. And thank you very much for your kind words of introduction. As he has told, I am basically an experimenter rather than a CFD man. So my lecture will be more on experiment rather than computational fluid dynamics. We do a lot of research programs for Bhabha Atomic Research, basically Department of Atomic Energy. So normally what we do in this type of activities that in fast breeder reactor, basically where we have that fast breeder reactor in Kalpakkam, we use CFD for their simulation purposes, because we have done 7 to 8 components of their hydraulic system for simulation, and basically we were studying more on cavitation aspects. So what we do in our experiments were that we will first simulate the model in water, do the experiment in water, then we do the same simulation with sodium as the liquid, and so we evaluate the model with water as the fluid, and then we convert it into liquid sodium, so that the results what we get from CFD are more or less similar. So this type of activities basically we do either Reynolds number simulation or float number simulation depending upon the situation. So in the case of pipe flows or closed conduit flows, we go for Reynolds number simulation, whereas for things like open this free surface flows, we go for like gas entrainment and all, we use float number and Weber number simulation. So today I am going to talk mainly on cavitation and valve. Basically, that is basically my research area. So as I told already, I am basically an experimental man. So we have done a lot of experiments. So to minimize my experiments, we used CFD as a tool for the design of the valve internals. So I'll try to speak something about whatever I have done, and we'll discuss about that in little detail. Okay. So topic is cavitation in valves, CFD analysis and its experimental evaluation. So as you know, what is cavitation? Cavitation is basically phenomena of formation, growth, movement, and collapse of bubbles. That is basically due to dynamic reduction of static pressure. It is just a reversal of boiling, where in the boiling we increase the temperature and make the liquid to reach to the vapor pressure, whereas in the case of cavitation we reduce the pressure to temperature is same, pressure is reduced, and we make the liquid to transform to vapor, and then vapor is collapsed at a higher pressure area, and we term it as cavitation. So I'm not going into details of cavitation. It was observed in basically in marine propellers, wherein we had issues associated with the pitting of these propellers. And later they found that the reason for pitting is cavitation. So cavitation is basically the formation of voids and collapse of bubbles due to high pressure. So this is a typical example of cavitation. So what we happens is this is a typical orifice plate. We have an higher pressure at the upstream of the orifice, lower pressure at the downstream of the orifice. At the vena contracta of the orifice, we have the maximum velocity. That means the static pressure will be way less minimum. So in some cases, static pressure can go below the vapor pressure corresponding to that corresponding temperature. So when the pressure is going below the vapor pressure, bubbles will be formed. Vapor bubbles will be formed. These bubbles, as they move along the fluid to a higher pressure area, it cannot remain as bubbles, so it collapses. And that is what is basically we call it as cavitation. So cavitation can take place in different ways. So this is a bubble that is generated due to the low pressure happening due to the flow. So when it goes to a higher pressure area, it changes its shape in the form of a torus, and a high velocity jet is generated at the center of the torus. So this jet is the cause for damage in cavitation. So if the bubble is placed close to the wall of the pipe, this entire this jet will hit onto the wall, and the velocity of this liquid jet will be of the order of 100 meters per second or more. So the amount of energy that is being released by the impingement of this jet will be quite high, so that finally results in the hitting of this area or erosion of this material here in the pipeline, and that is a major cause for damage cause for cavitation. If the see, this is a typical case where in the case of valves or orifice plates, so pressure is here, it is well above the vapor pressure, so there is no issue, so no cavitation. Sorry, here it has gone below the vapor pressure, so we have cavitation. And in this case, the outlet pressure is lesser than the vapor pressure, so at the outlet of the valve we get only vapors, and we call it as flashing. That means the liquid has flashed into vapor. So that is the basic theory of cavitation, and there are basically we have 3 to 4 types of cavitation or levels of cavitation. So incipient cavitation is basically the starting of cavitation. So this we can hear from as we go close to a valve or orifice plate. You can hear this popping sound. And normally this is acceptable for operation because it will not create much of the erosion issues. So incipient cavitation is acceptable in the industry. Critical cavitation means cavitation is taking place continuously. So here also some places people uses this critical cavitation zone also, because we don't want to see, if you want to reduce the cavitation, cost of that reduction will be quite high. So people leave with cavitation. So in incipient cavitation and constant cavitation, this valve is normally used. Next stage is incipient damage, wherein damage takes place. So in the graphical form, it will be something like this. We have normally the cavitation is sensed by either noise generated outside the valve or vibration of the pipe wall. So either we measure noise or vibration. And keeping the inlet pressure P1 constant, we try to reduce the outlet pressure. So the P1 minus P2. So initially P1 is close to P2, so we don't have any cavitation as seen here. So as the P2 is reduced, we are in the zone of incipient cavitation where locally some bubbles are formed. These bubbles will be collapsed locally, but it will not create any damage to the system. So as the downstream pressure is further decreased, we will go to the constant cavitation region where the slope of this curve is slightly higher. Then we have incipient damage and finally choking. So these two regions we don't normally operate the system, but these two regions normally we operate the system so that even if there is cavitation, that is affordable. So that is what normally the different levels of cavitation that is experienced in valves or pumps or all those items where the pressure can go below the pressure. Now coming to the cavitation in valves, you know, a typical valve, normally this cavitation is basically taking place in control valves where we have larger pressure drop. So we have the inlet, outlet, and this is the member that controls the pressure drop across the valve. So in this case, the water or liquid comes like this and goes like this. So there will be a small annular area will be there, or small opening will be there. And that area of that opening will control the flow through that particular valve. So there are different types of designs available. So we are not going into more detail about valves. So this is a typical case of flow through a valve. So we have a valve normally described by this X form. So at the vena contract of the valve, we have that will be normally half D. Normally we say half D after the minimum opening. So it will be somewhere here. Then pressure recovery takes place. So in the case of valves, we say 6 pipe diameters are required for the pressure recovery to take place. So after 6D, the pressure will be something like this. So this is the area where we are much worried, and we are talking about all these things. So this is a typical valve where we also doing this type of activities. The flow is coming like this. There will be opening. So we have a cage and a plug. So cage is the static member and plug will be a moving member. So cage may be having different profiles made on that. It may be in the form of holes or in the some shapes. So as the plug moves into the cage, area of opening changes and the flow and the pressure drop across the wall changes, and accordingly we get a similar pattern. Whereas in the case of butterfly valves, ball valves and all, we have a rotating member. It will rotate 90 degrees. So as it when close to the closed position, area of opening will be very less. So when the area of opening is very less, static pressure will increase. Static pressure will increase, velocity will increase considerably. That will result in reduction in static pressure, and here it can go below the. And apart from that, in the case of these butterfly valves and ball valves, there is a provision for wake formation downstream of this. So this also will add to the cavitation behavior. So now let us see what are the issues associated with cavitation. So when main issue is the erosion. So in the case of valves, there are basically 3 identified areas are there for cavitation erosion. One is the incubation area, where the cavitation is started. So there will be small amount of loss of weight, but it is not measurable, so we don't know whether the valve is operating in the incubation period or so. So after the incubation, we reach the constant erosion, where the slope of this erosion will be high. So loss in weight by time, this is the slope is higher. So material loss from the valve will be quite high. So when the material loss becomes high, what happens is surface will be similar to some heat treatment will take place. So hardness of the surface will increase. Then the material erosion will come down. So we call this as the strongly fractured area. So core erosion will be less. So we are more worried about these two regions in control valves, especially where the pressure drop is very high. Cavitation is normally measured with the help of visual studies. We are not. It is basically we cannot quantify these things. This is basically a quality. It's not a quantity evaluation, so we are not much worried about these things. Basically, we measure fluid-borne noise, structure-borne noise, or airborne noise. Fluid-borne noise are normally measured with the help of hydrophones, which are nothing but pressure transmitters, basically dynamic pressure transducers, where it is having a very high sensitivity and it will be sense dynamic pressure fluctuations in the flow. Structure-borne noise due to cavitation, see in the fluid-borne noise due to the collapse of the bubble, the pressure waves will be generated, and that pressure wave will be in the form of dynamic pressure pulsation, and that is being measured by the hydrophone. Same pressure pulsations hits the wall of the pipe or on the body of the valve and make the valve to make noise, and it will vibrate. So noise is measured with the help of hydrophone, whereas the vibration is normally measured with the help of accelerometer. So normally we use hydrophone, accelerometer, or microphone for measuring the intensity of cavitation. So this is basically how it comes. So we are not. So basically, when we parameters normally associated cavitation is sigma or k. So people definition is not very. I think some people use P2 minus P1, or some people use P1 minus P2 divided by P1 by P4. But this is normally the more accepted practice for cavitation in valves, where P1 is the absolute inlet pressure, P2 is the absolute outlet pressure, and PV is the vapor pressure corresponding to the operating temperature. So when the P2 reduces or P1 by P2 increases, this K value will increase, cavitation costs will increase. So that will take place when the P2 is reducing or P1 is increasing. So in most of the cases, we play with P2 so that because pump pressure will be constant, so inlet pressure P1 will be constant. So only thing what we do is we reduce P2 and ensure that the valve is cavitating. This is a typical scheme for measuring cavitation. Here we have the test valve. This is the scheme which I used for my research activities. So we have a larger size pipe before the valve so that we get a maximum flow and maximum pressure that is reduced further. Then we have the test valve somewhere here. Again, we'll take it back to this thing. So here we have to measure the entrapped air in the water. Then we have to measure the temperature of water. Then we use different sensors like hydrophone, then accelerometers, dynamic pressure transducers for measuring the. So this is a scheme of experimentation that we normally use for measuring cavitation. Hydrophone is normally placed flush with the fluid surface so that whatever pressure fluctuations or dynamic pressure fluctuation that is caused by the valve will be picked up by the hydrophone. Vibrations generated by the hitting of that pressure waves on the pipe wall and valve wall will be picked up by the accelerometers. We are not used any sound level meters for this thing, so we have suitable signal analyzing and all those things, and that will be connected to a data acquisition system so that we can process the data online or offline to get the required output. So these were some of the profiles what we have used. This is the valve. So what we used is we used valve of different sizes. So basically here only we did used CFD for getting the results. Initially we started with a normal valve, then we tried with valves with different profiles and all those things. This is the valve cage and this is the valve plug. So during operation, this cage will be fixed onto the valve and plug will be moving according to the movement of the handle of the valve. So we have different configurations. So all these trials we have done with CFD, and it was evaluated with experimentally also, so that we can use in future the same scheme can be used for predicting cavitation valves. That's what was the objective of this thing. Study was conducted on a 75 mm valve, that is 3-inch valve, and the movement of this valve movement was only 17.5 millimeters. This is a typical plug and cage commercial design which we refine for our application. So this is the valve what we are using. So this is the valve body and this is the moving mechanism what we have. This is connected here. So this is the valve cage. Plug what I have not included. So as the valve move into it, this part of this hole will be covered by the cage, and through the remaining part water flows. This is another type we have done for some of our customers. So same studies we have done. So this is the scheme what we have. So to measure or to see the bubbles that has been generated, we have put a perspex or transparent section after the wall. So you can see the small bubbles that is being generated during the operation. So finally we will get a graph like this. So where we have we plot the RMS value of, here we have used accelerometer and dynamic pressure. So here you can see the change in slope of the graph. So we can say that this is the incipient cavitation, and then we have gone to the constant cavitation, and that is more prominent in the case of accelerometers. You can see here 3 slopes coming. 3 slopes are coming. So accordingly we can say in which stage we can. So normally valve manufacturers, what they do is they will allow the valve to operate up to second slope change. This is the first slope change, then second slope, then third slope. So valve has to stop its operation somewhere here. So this is basically a valve which is fully open, and as the downstream pressure is decreased, so here it is defined as P1 minus P2 divided by P1 minus PV. That is why it has changed. So here we have the minimum differential pressure, that is P2 is close to P1 here, and as I move towards the left, the P2 is decreasing, and when P2 becomes P1, we have the P2 becomes PV, we will get the value of 1. Same trend when the valve is open fully or half, that means 70% or 100% or 30%, valve opening will be reduced. So when the valve opening is reduced, means probability for cavitation also will come down. You can see the slope change points also moving towards the right, which is saying that this corresponds to 100%, this corresponds to 70%, this corresponds to 30%. So you can see the valve will cavitate well early in the case of 100%, but as we reduce the opening, starting cavitation point also moves at a higher differential. So this is how we define the valve. So we fit the line and we take the R square value. So these two cases, the R square is quite comfortable, but here it is not comfortable, but this fit is not quite good. But these two fits are good. So you can see there is a clear change of slope is taking place. So the slope has changed from minus 219 to minus 71. So it says that there is a clear change in the cavitation pattern. So this is another example where we have same full opening valve, but different area of the opening were considered. And another aspect what we do is we will do the same accelerometer output through a FFT analyzer. That means fast Fourier transform of the data we will do. There we will get peaks at a higher frequencies. And this is normally due to cavitation because the bubble, so the size of this frequency of this high amplitude areas are basically depending upon the size of the bubble. As the size of the bubble decreases, so frequency increases. So we assume that the mechanical vibrations and everything are removed, only the pressure fluctuations or whatever it is due to cavitation alone is considered. So we remove the data below 10 kilohertz. Now let us come to what we have done on CFD for the same parameters. So we have seen the experimental studies. So we used the Fluent as our field, and we use a mixture model. RNG capsule version. This is a quite old version because that time when I was using this, I used. So standard valve functions were used. we define the pressure inlet and outlet and assume that there is no slip in the boundary. Standard material properties that is available in Fluent were used for this fluids. So initially we started with single phase with water alone. Later we did the same experiment with water and water vapor with the air entrainment inside the fluids. So finally in our final studies we used tetrahedral grids and we were using something more than 1 lakh sample elements for covering the core area of the wall. So initially we tried with 10D upstream and 20D downstream so that we are able to get the complete pressure recovery inside the wall. So we defined the pressure inlet 10D upstream of the wall and pressure outlet 20D downstream of the wall. Assuming that the full pressure recovery is taking place after cavitation inside the wall. So we have provided finer grids at the internals of the wall, whereas we have provided coarser grids in this region. And as we move at the wall, we have finer grids. Basic assumptions were that flow is three-dimensional, incompressible. We assume that since we have provided the 10D upstream diameters with this flow straighteners and all, we assume that the flow is uniform and unidirectional at the inlet, and there is no velocity at the surface of this thing. And turbulence was modeled with two equation K-epsilon model. And in our second phase, that is mixture model, we used the void fraction is 0 at the inlet, assuming that there is no air entrainment inside the water. So with this thing we studied, so we varied the inlet pressure from 0.1 megapascal to 1.7 megapascal, which is equivalent to 1 bar to 17 bar pressure at the inlet, and outlet pressure was maintained because it was freely going to atmosphere. So that is what it means. Outlet pressure is 0 because we use gauge curve pressures. Initially, we started with turbulent kinetic energy as 1, specific dissipation rate as 1, and hydraulic diameter as 0.075 meters because we tried with the 3-inch wall. So turbulent viscosity ratio considered for initial starting was 10. So with these conditions and the material properties, we took it directly from the Fluent. So no modifications were done. So with these trials, we modeled this thing initially with this is for just trials we have done. So we tried with the 5 mm mesh size and 20 mm mesh size, and we found that 5 mm is good. So this is the profile one. This is the static pressure profile what we got from this one. So this is the combination of cage and plug, and we have opening here. So you can see the water is coming like this. It is going through like so. This is the area of the cage, and we have the plug up to this thing. So water is coming from here at higher pressures of the order of something like 10 bar pressure. Then it is going to a pressure of close to 1 bar. And this 9 bar pressure drop is taking place in this region. And you can see maximum pressure drop is taking place here, and we concentrated on this area for our future studies. So here the inlet pressure was 10 bar and outlet pressure was 1 bar near atmospheric. Same thing what we, this is the velocity magnitude. So here the area is very less, so we get maximum area, maximum flow here, and we have minimum static pressure here. We must start Bernoulli's equation. This is the velocity vectors. Maximum velocity is taking place here. So because of this thing, so these are all complementary issues. Same study we have done 20 mm. Also we got the same thing. So same trials we have done for 4 inch also. We get similar trends. So this I already discussed. We have seen. So we have used the 8 holes in the profile, 12 holes with a flow area of 1384 mm square. Another series with the 981 square mm with the different hole profile. These hole profiles and all basically used to improve the cavitation characteristics of the wall, which is not covered in this. So this is the grid what we have used for same thing what we have discussed. We have used tetrahedral element and totally more than 1.5 lakhs grids were there. So 10D upstream, 20D downstream, and we have finer grids inside the wall. So you can see the opening here. So in this case, we have 4 openings, one here, this side, 2, and one other side. And as the sun, this the displacement of the this plug was 17.5. So here, this is basically a single phase model. We assume that there is no cavitation taking place because we are not enabled the cavitation model here. So we just studied what is the minimum static pressure in all the cases. So we have used only very low differential pressures so that we can not want the wall to cavitate. So the differential pressure was 1 bar, 2 bar, and 3 bar, and the configurations what we used were 3 configurations were used. Flow rates what we measured and what we have obtained from CFD also calculated here. This is the value what we got from CFD, and it was comparable with the absolute case. So what here in cavitation aspect we were more worried about the absolute pressure. What is the minimum absolute pressure? If the minimum absolute pressure is lesser than the vapor pressure, then wall will cavitate. So in that 1 bar differential pressure, all the cases the minimum absolute pressure was higher than the vapor pressure corresponding to that atmospheric temperature. So we assume there was no cavitation in all the cases. But if you can see in the case of 3 bar differential pressure across the wall, the minimum absolute pressure was 5,100 pascals. It says that the wall can cavitate, but this will not give a clear picture. So this is a more elaborate thing where we measured the flow minimum static pressure and we can have cavitation. So these are some of the pictures we are taken from that fluent. So for different profiles, for 1 bar pressure, for static pressure, as well as velocity. So we found that the single phase model will not give any results. Then we went for 2 phase model. So 2 phase model, we have a term for vapor generation. That is basically a function of void fraction of the vapor present in the fluid and the void fraction of gases present. So this is the gas that is already dissolved in liquid or water. And we have another terms like this is a constant density of the liquid, density of the vapor, pressure of vapor and inlet pressure, and the density. So this is the term that we get from that Rayleigh-Presnett equation. That is the basic equation for cavitation in valves. So we are not having this condensation issue. In our case, we have only vapor generation only. So we are worried about that only. So similarly, when we go for this, when we enable that cavitation model in the fluent, it will ask so many things. So we have to consider three fluids here. One is air, that is the amount of gas that is dissolved in the liquid, and this is the basic liquid flow, and water vapor that is being generated due to cavitation. So these are all the basic initial conditions what we have given, and fluid properties we directly took from the Fluent library. So we didn't do anything. So based on that, we did trials for flow rate, volume integral, average volume, then mass integral, mass average. So these are the initial things what we have done. We used a two-phase model, mixture model, and cavitation model was enabled in Fluent. So this were the, so finally what we have done is we have for different differential pressure across the valve, which is corresponding to, we have calculated the corresponding sigma also, that is P1 minus P2 divided by P1 minus PV, that is the definition for this sigma. Then we calculated the mass flow rate through the valve, and you can see as the differential pressure increases, the mass flow rate increases, this vapor fraction also increases. For 1 bar pressure, differential pressure, that means 0.1 megapascal, it was 0.13, whereas when it goes to 16 bar or 1.6 megapascal, it is 28 into 10 power minus 3, that percentage. That is the vapor fraction in this thing. So what we have done is we calculated the vapor fraction into density of the mixture and calculated this value. Some inside what is happening inside the control volume what we have decided. We have also measured them, calculate means noted down the kinetic energy inside this thing. So we used basically 3 parameters. One is thermal kinetic energy, second is product of mixture density and vapor fraction inside the pipe after the valve, then del of this product mixture density and vapor fraction inside the pipe. So these 3 parameters we studied for cavitation. And this was done for different vapor content, I mean gas and non-condensate gas, that is air content in the water. So we tried for three cases. In all the cases, we calculated all these 3 parameters, and this was the Rari-Prislet equation, wherein what is the vapor generation is a function of void fraction of vapor as well as void fraction of gas. So void fraction of gas we have taken as constant. In all these cases, what is the amount of Fe generated we calculated, and we made all these things. So we plotted a graph for all these 3 parameters. Here it is del of rho into void fraction for the vapor phase. So we can see when the gas content is low, we get a lower value for this parameter. This is applicable for all the cases. So we have for thermal kinetic energy we have done for 2 cases only, and for -5 case we have not done. So all these things were done for a, whatever I am showing is for a 12-volt cage, 100% opening for 3 cavitation parameters. So same thing for a single case, full opening for a constant gas constant, how it behaves. You can see here, we can see all are showing different, pattern is same, but the amplitude is different. So same graph I have shown, same thing what I have seen earlier. That was shown for 10 bar, 14 bar and 16 bar. 10 bar you can see that there is no vapor fraction is quite less. But when it goes to 100 bar, this is at a area that is vertical section of the valve. You cut the valve in the vertical section, whereas here it is the horizontal section of the wall. So you can see here also, as the differential pressure across the wall increases, the vapor pressure increases, vapor fraction increases, and the wall is cavitating. So now we can use the same thing, compare the same thing with our experimental results. So here you can see, I have compared this against vibration. For a varying gas constant, non-condensated gas present, and we have taken the, we don't know what is the exact amount of non-condensate gas available in the system. So we can see that all the cases the trend is more or less same. Only these are all basically because the scale is not exactly same. So same thing. Earlier I have shown it for vibration, whereas here I have shown it for pressure fluctuations, dynamic pressure fluctuation. You can see in all the cases the pattern is more or less same. This is for varying that gas. So now we can see what we can do, how this can be used for our comparison purpose. So this is the values we got for CFD results, and this is the values we got with vibration, and this the experiment was done on a wall-hold cage, full open conditions. We have plotted two graphs, straight lines, intersection points were taken, and we can see that the intersection points for this vibration, that is experimental thing, was around 1.254, whereas for CFD it was 1.24. It's very close, we are able to meet. Similarly, the same thing when it's done for a 6-hole cage, so it will cavitate early. That's why we got for experimental, we got it 1.33, and CFD it is 1.29. So that is a variation of something like 3 to 4%. Variation only we could observe between CFD and experimental evaluation. That's all I would like to share with you. So basically the CFD is a good tool wherein you can minimize the number of experiments, use maximum. And I have one more example where I can show you another case where we have used so here what we have done is basically a simulation of a surge tank where this is basically we have done it for IGCAR where we use liquid sodium as the actual fluid, but we have done the experiments with water. So we have 2 inlets, 4 outlets, and we have a surge tank. So we want to minimize the height of the water. So water is coming from the bottom and goes through these 4 outlets, and this is basically we having a free surface at this point, and we want to avoid the presence of any air entrainment in this case. So that was a study what we have done here. So based on this study, we have developed some devices. So here they have provided this Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research has given the maximum design level. Here also we used a 3D single phase solver because we are not used a 2-phase here. Basically, this case we used the surface velocity as a measure of air entry. So here what the inlet was 333 mm and outlet was 253 mm. These were all given by our customer, and we have done different cases like without any rings, with 30 degree rings. So I'll show these things. So here we can see our study was based to find the maximum free surface velocity. Air entrainment is a function of free surface velocity. If the free surface velocity is less than 0.2 meters per second and all, we can assume that there is no air entrainment. So we tried with different devices with CFD, and 1 or 2 trials we did experimentally to verify the air entrainment. So this is a typical case where you can see this is basically the volume fraction. You can see the air is, so we have the water here, air here, compressed air here. So water is coming from the bottom and going through 4 limbs this side. So because of this, the air is getting entrained and that is going along with the fluid. This is the velocity profile. So we have provided a plate here. That is why we have a maximum velocity. This is a porous plate wherein we have provided porosity around 0.7 or 70% porosity we have provided. So we have the maximum velocity coming here, and it goes here, and the flow is from sides. So this is the gauge, that is static pressure profile at the middle cross section of this thing, where we have the 2 inlets here and 4 outlets. You can see the velocity magnitude. So in this case, we have a 5 meter velocity, that is the standard velocity. Whereas inside we have velocities going up to, so here we have slightly higher velocity, and here the velocity, because this is a 10-inch pipe and this is having a diameter of 1.4 meters. So the velocity here will be quite less. So here you can see, because of the presence of the 2 inlets here, velocity is minimum here, and this presence of 2 inlets are shown here. CFD itself. This is basically the volume fraction of air. You can see the air is getting entrained here. So we have the 4 outlets here. So air is getting entrained and going through this. So this is a study. So we modified this thing with the different devices inside. So we have provided a pepper pot type of thing where we have perforated plate here. Then we have different types of deflectors. This is a 30-degree reflector. This is straight reflector. So water will go through this pepper plot, then top, and then we will go to the 4 outlets. So here you can see this is coming here. This is the velocity vector. You have the minimum velocity here. And once you see the vapor fraction, you can see the amount of, once you do the vapor fraction, we'll be able to get a more clear picture about this thing. These are the 2. So basically we want to measure the surface velocity and get the sense of fluid coming. Different profiles we have tried here. And this was our experimental scheme where we have the surge tank here, 2 inlets from this side and 4 outlets. So this is the plan of this thing. So we have the surge tank here, 2, 3, 1 out, 3, 4 outlets, 2 inlets, 4 outlets going to the sump. And this height of the surge tank was around 5 meters height. So from here it was 5 meters. So this was a transparent section where we could see the free surface, and if there is some air bubbles are coming, that also can be seen. We used our laser velocimeter. Just for capturing the data, we used our laser source and camera for getting the presence of gas bubbles, where we can see up to maximum of 0.1 mm or 1.5 mm diameter bubbles can be seen in this. So these are some of the devices we designed based on the study, and the some of the designs we tried here. Whatever we get as optimum, we experimentally seen whether there is an air entrainment taking place at the desired water level. So that's all about CFD, some experimental evaluation of CFD. This I cannot show any graph or anything of this because it is purely visual study wherein we can see the presence of air bubbles and formation of vortices at the free surface only was studied here. So there was no quantification in this study, only qualitative study was conducted on this. So that's why I could not see any graphs or anything else. That's all about I would like to share with you. So what I suggest is we have a CFD is a good tool wherein we can reduce the experimentation and do the activity in a very fast manner. Because CFD will not take time, whereas experimentation we have to modify the model accordingly. It will take a lot of time and effort is also quite high. It will be costly. So cost can be reduced with the help of proper designing of models using CFD. So that's all I would like to share with you. If you have any clarifications or doubts, we'll discuss.
This type of experimentations are very rare. So what I feel that your experimentation part, that by seeing your facilities and your explanation, the people or the faculty will get a feel how the sophisticated and precise experiments are conducted. What are the various cares to be taken and how painful to conduct experiment. That will be experienced by experiencing only we can feel the pain required in experimentation. Okay, you have started your presentation with cavitation. Usually in textbooks, we will not get that details, the depth of details you have given. That is the formation of jet, how the jet impinges on the wall, and how the pitting is formed, etc. We will not get in our fluid mechanics or fluid machinery textbooks. So that idea or in-depth this explanation will be actually an insight how the cavitation damage is taking in fluid machineries. Also, you presented a lot of your experimental results and you compared it, or you did CFD and you validated and compared the result with your experimental measurement. That's also good. I hope the participants should have benefited by saying this. Also, if you would have explained or somewhat described the facilities of FCRI, should have been useful for the faculty so that they can also take up their students for their visit or for internships, etc. Okay, thank you.
Later we'll do that. Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you for accepting our invitation and presenting a nice session.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, please share your PPT and your details, account details for office purpose.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, welcome.
Bye. Thank you all.